Hey everyone, and welcome back to Newegg TV. My name is Paul. Today we have JJ once again here in the studio. How you doing, JJ?
I'm doing all right, boss. Thank you for having me.
JJ's doing all right. JJ's a little under the weather, but he's come down here nonetheless because he has some fantastic boards. We've already talked about the MAXIMUS 6 Impact, insane mini ATX board, but we're going to talk about the full-size ATX board that JJ's been working on for quite some time. This is the MAXIMUS 6 Formula. I should say JJ as well as the development and design
our
team.
entire team. Definitely, it's not a one-man show, but definitely this board has been very close to me in terms of the development cycle. I think with every iteration of the formula, there's been a continued focus to kind of want to keep pushing ourselves to unquestionably make what we feel is the absolute best gaming motherboard on the market. And the previous generation MAXIMUS V Formula, I thought we were almost there. And for this generation, we thought we can do even better. And I think that we have done that. We've unquestionably made a board that not only looks awesome, it's got an amazing feature set and functionality, but I think in every respect that if you're a gamer, if you're an enthusiast, if you're a tweaker, it's got everything you could possibly want.
So let me start out with a positioning question here, because this is something that I've been asked before, and I feel like I usually have a reasonably good response, but you got the ROG series of boards, which are kind of the cream of the crop when it comes to overclocking gaming-specific applications, as well as extreme overclocking and accommodating for stuff like exotic cooling. Formula versus extreme. Yeah. How would you say would you guys distinguish the two of those two boards?
That's actually a very good question. I mean, when you're kind of considering the entire I guess product stack as it is, where Formula sits in relation to Extreme is the Extreme technically is positioned higher than it, but only because there are going to be certain supplemental features in terms of how it's designed that might allow for more flexibility or expansion, such as the ability to have three-way or four-way configurations on that board versus the Formula that's targeted only being a two-way capable board. Okay. There's also the focus of what we see is generally at a higher end price band, and somebody that's usually looking at the Extreme tends to want to go towards the highest performing discrete base parts that are on the market. So an example is that the Formula comes included with a high-performance 811 AC 2x2 base-A solution. This is pretty much the fastest wireless you can get on there, but it's not the fastest wireless. We're the only vendor that produces one, but there is a 3x3 PCIe wireless solution in our PC AC product. Okay. And the extreme category of users tend to be some of those guys that want to go with, I want absolutely the fastest solution, so that's going to be that add-in card. Or I want to put in a Zonar Phoebus or a Zonar STX sound card, which is even going to be higher quality than the really great audio design that we've implemented on the Formula. So that's why we tend to not necessarily implement certain of those functions and features, not because those users aren't somebody that don't appreciate wireless or don't appreciate sound, but because we don't want them to necessarily have to pay for a technology that they may not utilize. The Formula is more so about integrating the best possible feature set for the user that's looking for an outstanding out-of-the-box experience. So both users are still gamers. The Extreme also, though, will offer generally a more specialized and even more esoteric level of hardware level control or design on the board that's really been designed to eke out the last absolute percentage points of tweaking and tuning and overclocking. So sometimes this might come through specialized supplemental hardware designs. So like dual ROM chips that are on the board, or maybe secondary microcontrollers on there that give us a little bit more granularity about like how voltage or initialization policies are set up. Something that probably most users are not going to use. But once again, if you're somebody that's that extreme user, you may want to spend that little bit extra time finding out about really all kind of the design advantages of the board, and you may leverage that. So that's where the difference comes into play as far as where Formula will sit in relation to an extreme board.
So very thorough response. The way I've described it in the past is the Extreme board, I feel like, is the board that I see like reviewers and overclockers. I see them using it a bit more often as like a test bed or something, so that they can drop in whatever they want at whatever time, test multi-card configurations or something like that. Whereas the Formula, I feel like I might see a little bit more frequently. This is a completely designed, built system with a custom water cooling loop and everything like that, and maybe a two-way video card configuration, something along those lines. So again, your explanation much more thorough, but we're getting too distracted. Let's talk about the MAXIMUS 6 Formula, and the board's right over here, and I know we want to take a closer look at that, but since this is going to be sort of a full encompassing look at everything, we're going to go with the requisite closer look at the retail box. So here's a quick look. Again, it's referencing some of the features of the board, which I know JJ's got a lot of information to share with us, but you can see all the detailed specs there as well. If you want these in text format, you can of course click the link down in the description to head over to the Newegg website, and you can see the detailed specs there as well. But there's a quick look at it for you guys. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on the box. but there you go. As well as a form factor, by the way, ATX, standard ATX form factor for this one.
Correct.
We're going to be going over everything real close, but let's also jump in and talk about accessories. You, of course, get your Maximus 6 formula user's guide right there, so vital to keep this on hand while you're doing your build. You get the ROG stickers, which I really like, so you can label all of your cables and know what's what. The Maximus 6 formula driver as well as software disk. So drivers frequently updated by ASUS, so check the ASUS website for updated drivers, but as JJ mentioned in our impact video, this also contains some software which you might not be able to download from the website. That's
correct, yeah. You definitely want to use this desk to be able to take advantage of the 1-year licensed Kaspersky antivirus that comes included.
Okay.
The ROG RAM disk software suite that also comes included, and the full version of Daemon Tool Pro Standard that also comes included in there. So there is more than just the standard AI Suite 3 system utility as well as your standard core drivers.
So don't throw away the driver disk, but download the latest drivers specifically from the ASUS website.
Correct.
And then we wanted to give you a quick look. There's a new ROG Case Badge right there. This one's also included with the impact, and we didn't show it in that video. So surely everyone will also watch this video and now know that it's included with both. All right, so apart from documentation, we have a full complement of 8 serial ATA cables. These are all going to be SATA Rev 1, 2, or 3 compatible, and it looks like you get 4 that have a 90-degree bracket on one side, and then 4 that have straight plugs on both sides.
Yeah, so give you a little bit of mix of both to be able to have the most
flexibility. I like that. So depending on what you're plugging in and where it is, sometimes it's more convenient to have the straight plug, sometimes it's more convenient to have the angled one. You do get a door hanger. This side says you can enter, champion to break. Do not disturb. Champion in action. All right, so hang that on your door so people know whether or not they can come in. You get an ROG SLI bridge, which I really like because SLI bridges are often very visible in your computer. It's black ROG logo, pretty sweet. There's a closer look at it. Also, this is the flexible version, so this would accommodate 2 or 3 slot spacing, I'm guessing.
Well, probably not 3 slot spacing, as the board is predominantly designed, of course, for 2-way base configurations.
Okay, so this will work with the board, as it should. Oh, look, a black Q connector.
Yes.
That's cool. All right, so the Q connector,
just an easy way to connect your front leads to the motherboard without any issues, so you don't have to jam them all in there in that little bottom section of the board.
It's one of my favorite little add-ons for boards. I know it's kind of minimal, but hey, I like the colored ones too. That will help it blend in with your build. Since the formula does have a bit of an aesthetic slant to it.
I would definitely agree. It's not only a well-featured board, but it looks great as well.
It's got brains and beauty, right? Okay. Here is your I/O shield. Again, all black, ROG logo on that. Everything clearly labeled, so you know what is what. And
it is a Q shield.
Q shield. Oh, I can't forget that. The squishy electromagnetic shielding, which not only protects you from cutting yourself, but also protects you from electromagnetic goblins.
Yes, I've never heard it quite phrased such a way.
I'm going to start using that from now on. Okay. Since this board does also contain 802.11 AC wireless adapter, which JJ had already talked about briefly, you get the adapter, which is part of that riser card right there. Also, a newly redesigned antenna for this. So this is, I'm sorry, did you say this was a 2x2?
Yes, correct. Antenna? It's a 2x2 base solution. So this is the corresponding module right here next to it. So this is going to be the M combo module. It has an integrated 802.11 AC PCI Express based wireless adapter that also includes Bluetooth 4.0. And here on this front side, this is where we can support ultra small form factor flash based devices that are specifically M.2 or NJFF. So that is the replacement standard for M SATA. So you can use these both concurrently at the same time when you're using this on the motherboard. SMA-based antenna connection, so that if you don't want to use our antenna and upgrade to higher performance-based antennas for better signal reception and throughput, you can entirely do so. And as you noted, this is the included antenna to go ahead and give you the best overall throughput and performance, and also still maintains the magnetic base, so you can go ahead and fix that to your chassis.
Okay, but enough of all this. We want to talk about the board, right? That's what everyone's been waiting for.
Let's jump to it.
So for those of you who skipped to this part of the video right from the very beginning, welcome. And we're talking to JJ from ASUS. You know, people always like, let's talk about the board, let's jump up there. Okay. So here's the Maximus 6 formula. So standard ATX form factor. Again, you said this board is being designed for gamers, enthusiasts, people who want to jump onto the Socket 1150 platform with an Intel 4th generation core processor. Again, as you mentioned, if you're going for more than 2 video cards, the Maximus 6 Extreme might be a better option for you.
Yeah, like our Maximus 6 Extreme or Z87WS, either one of those boards, they of course feature the PLX chips that you need to be able to leverage 3-way or 4-way based configurations. 90% of the market only uses 1 GPU, and then a small percentage is 2 GPUs. So if you fall within that category of usage, then the formula is going to be a perfect choice for you, especially if you want to have a more premium class of features like advanced wireless, improved sound, more expansive connectivity, and all kind of the supplemental features that we're going to be going over.
Nice. And now we have what I initially want to say is Thermal Armor, which is the name for the Sabertooth Thermal Armor, but this is ROG Armor.
That's correct.
Which is named therefore because it is badass.
Yes, it's an awesome looking just an aesthetic to the board that just entirely gives it a more aggressive styling to it. And unlike the Sabertooth Z87 series board, which has the actual thermal armor, that thermal armor has been put in place to be able to actually provide a functional real-world benefit, to be able to go ahead and reduce onboard temperatures and work in conjunction with the thermal radar system. The formula is a little bit different. The focus first and foremost with the ROG Armor was to be able to provide an aggressive aesthetic and also kind of just streamline the look and feel of it. Now this doesn't mean that there isn't a benefit to it, and we'll talk about that when we take a look at the backplate that is here on the motherboard, and that will actually add some aspects of improved functionality and experience points. But for all intents and purposes, with the minor point of that in your PCI Express area, because you're helping to block some of the heat that's getting output from your GPUs and being circulating in this area by your PCI Express slots, that will lower a little bit of that temperature correspondingly for the ambient temperature for the motherboard. But otherwise, there's not technology that's integrated into this like it is in the thermal armor with the assist fans that would help to reduce the onboard motherboard temperature.
Okay. Now, I'm just curious, there is an ROG or Republic of Gamers logo right there. Is that
yes, and it does light
That
up.
lights up, okay. It looked like it lit up, but I just wanted to ask to make sure. Since you're mentioning the backplate as well, and this is something that had never ever seen on motherboards at all, at least myself personally. I don't know if there was ever anyone who'd done a backplate on a motherboard, but on the Sabertooth series for the Z87, as well as the Formula, you have this backplate. It is metal.
Yes.
It is sturdy.
SECC grade steel.
Very nice.
So this is a very durable base backplate, and it's been incorporated to pretty much help to add a lot of torsional rigidity. And what that pretty much means is that when you put on a big beefy heatsink, sometimes you have a backplate based design that if you get too overzealous in torquing it down, even though we use an ultra high quality PCB material, you can have a little bit of bowing or flexing, which isn't ideal, especially for these traces, which are all here in this back area where you do not want to damage those traces. You don't want to bend them. That can affect the signal integrity. So what this helps to do is help the board keep a more even level of rigidity across the entire PCB. So it gives you a functional benefit, plus when you're dealing with the board and you're picking up the board and you're installing it, touching this area is nicer than having to touch the board directly, where if you're making contact with the solder points, then of course that can sometimes nick or cut your hands or cut your fingers.
Yeah, it's never a good way to go. I mean, and just the fact that you can take the board and you can just set it down flat. I mean, that's something that you don't always consider, but it's nice to be able to do. So a ton of extra, as you mentioned, structural rigidity provided by this, and I like that you've designed it in such a way that you still have access, for example, to the spring-loaded Phillips head screws right there that are holding on the heatsink for the Z87 chipset. Still have access to that. You're not going to necessarily need to pull that off, although you could if it became necessary if you're doing
and part of the reason also for that too is that occasionally you may want to service or maintenance the back of the board in this area, and that's because this is another aspect outside of the rigidity factor, is that this actually does serve as a large partial heatsink assembly. Because as you can see right here, there's these indents, and these indents are actually for the VRM assembly. So the MOSFETs and the drivers, which actually are the hottest part of your VRM, this portion makes direct contact with them, and it's helping to actually conduct some heat away from that across the entire backplane.
Very nice.
So you do actually get a partial heatsink benefit as well with this backplate design.
And ROG logo as well, if you happen to have a case which might show the back of the board. You never
it's
know.
awesome because you know that it's there.
You just know that it's there.
You know that it's
there. All right. Now we're talking a little bit about the ROG Armor that's integrated on here. Now let's talk about audio next, because I know that's another element to this board you guys have put a lot of work into. And right now I can see at least part of this, and I think this might be the only place on the board that you actually get a good look at
yeah,
this.
you know, maybe
right
maybe we can get some B-roll for you and try to insert it a little bit later, or give you guys a topology picture and a layout that we can weave into this. But one of the key aspects, if you just want to go ahead and maybe flip it over to the other side,
sure.
We may be able to get a side profile of some of the elements that are on here. But you can see right here, you've got a couple of indicators, such as these red caps that you'll see right there, and then there's some capacitors you can see right there. The sound design that we have here is the most advanced sound that we've ever designed and developed and implemented on a motherboard. This is a Supreme Effects design that carries over the full isolated audio-based design that we've historically had, so that was the red line audio design. It maintains the full shielding to the HD audio codec that we have implemented on there, and that's the same like previous generations. We keep the ELNA audio grade capacitors that we also had in previous generations. But now what we've done to even extend the performance to even a higher degree is, one, we've integrated even higher audiophile grade capacitors that are made by WEMA. These are film grade audio capacitors which add even better tonality, lower extension ranges for that sub kind of LFE based frequency. You get a smoother overall sound. It's clearer, it's got a bit more punch to it. We have a high performance 600 ohm rated operational amplifier that's an audio centric operational amplifier, as opposed to some other vendors that are just using general op amps as opposed to audio-centric op amps. And one of the other absolute biggest points is that we now have a Cirrus Logic 24-bit 192 kilohertz sound processing chip built on board. So you have a full A to D DAC built onto the motherboard. So when you bring that into conjunction with the total design, we're really offering you a true high-grade audio experience that we feel is unquestionably giving you the best experience when it comes to games, music, and movies. It's awesome. It's really probably equivalent pretty closely to a Zonar DX level sound card. So you're talking almost maybe a $90 sound card integrated on your motherboard. So unless you're a user that's jumping out to such a premium level product like our Zonar Phoebus or Zonar STX or like our Zonar Muse series product, you're getting a really high grade level of audio that simplifies the entire experience for you, because it's just integrated straight there on the motherboard, and you don't have to worry about it taking up any slot expansion from you. So you can go ahead and put your 2 GPUs in there and get a great sound design. And like in previous generations, we still maintain, of course, the sonic radar technology, which is our visual mapping system for in-game sound, as well as our perfect voice and noise gate technology for improving in-game audio for things like you know, TeamSpeak or Ventrilo or Mumble or whatever voice client you may be utilizing.
So those are the software elements that tie in with the hardware that's integrated. And then one last question about the audio. So the motherboard separation, that layer that you guys have integrated, I know you guys started doing that originally. Does that still light up?
Actually, for this one, it does not. Just because we have the ROG Armor on here, so it's harder in terms of actually seeing a ready benefit from it. But because it does not light up, we do definitely want to still make it clear is that we still have that full isolated, separated design. It just doesn't illuminate.
So good. I was kind of figuring either way on that one because it is kind of covered up there. But just curious. Okay. Now, apart from that, let's see. We talked about the PCI Express a bit. The Z87 chipset it has a bunch of awesome new features on its own. Some enhanced USB 3.0 support, SATA Rev 3, 6 available ports now.
Correct. And you can see on this board that we actually offer a total of 10.
Total of 10. So yeah, you guys have a
2 secondary controllers, so 2 AS Media 1061 controllers on there, so that gives you a ton of storage expansion connectivity.
Very nice.
So you don't have to worry about that. I think one of the next real big points, though, is probably going to be the CrossChill based design that's on this board. So outside of the visual aesthetic that you have with the ROG Armor, one of the other aesthetics you're going to see is in this VRM section. So the cool thing that we did here from the previous generation, where we had our hybrid-based design that allows you to go ahead and run the board purely passive, or you could run it with a water-cooled configuration setup. For this generation, we definitely took feedback from our community to even make it better. And you can still 100% run this board in a pure passive configuration, even while overclocked. But now for this generation, if you want to be able to go ahead and have even better thermal efficiency and better dissipation for the VRM, you can use the CrossChill VRM cooling solution. And these two little guys will come off. And I think, Paul, you had something you wanted to show.
Well, yeah, I was curious. I was assuming you guys were going to go with barbs again, you know, but I it looks like you maybe have added a bit more flexibility for water coolers out there. These are standard G1/4 fittings?
That's correct. So the great benefit that you have right here is that you can go ahead and take whatever it is that you have, whether they're compression-based fittings, whether they're barbs, whatever it might be, and you just have the flexibility to integrate those simply, easily, and effectively right onto the board. So this allows you to have the most seamless type of configuration to align with how you've set up your water cooling setup.
So you can choose your own water cooling components. You can integrate them just like that. And JJ even brought these along, which are black and red, and they match.
Yeah, they look great, and of course the performance is quite nice. You know, in most situations, depending of course on the quality of your pump and your water cooling configuration, you could have temperature rejections upwards of 20 C in terms of the VRM. So overall, it's a great option to be able to integrate in here, and that goes optimally with of course all this high quality power VRM componentry. We did talk about the Extreme board, and we've talked about our MAXIMUS 6 Impact. One of the key halo points for the ROG boards is that they use an uncompromising focus to put the best quality components that we can put on motherboard. So you get the 10K rated Nichicon GT capacitors that are there. You get the black wing inductors, or the chokes. Those are 60 amps that are rated in terms of their power output capability.
Nice.
That's higher than what we even offer on our X79 series of motherboards.
Wow.
So you have a huge amount of power output capability. And then we have advanced MOSFET driver stack assembly that's on there as well. So when it comes to the overall VRM design, you can feel confident in terms that this board is going to be an unrelentless beast in terms of giving you great overclocking stability and power, and great efficiency. That's one of the other really great things, is that you have a huge amount of options in the VRM assembly to tweak this board for however you want to run it, whether it's really efficient stock operation, whether it's, you know, partial or moderate level overclocking, or whether you're going to really push the board, you know, with high-end air cooling or water cooling configurations to really be able to get the best that you can get out of it. And tying that all together is also going to be, of course, class-leading fan control functionality. So you can go ahead and take a look at the number of the headers that we have on here.
Wait, let me see if I can count them up. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all 4-pin, by the way.
That's correct.
5, 6, and 7, 8. 8. I'm counting 8.
A total of 8 fan headers on here. So you're not going to be left wanting in terms of the total level of fan connectivity you have on here. We still maintain, of course, the full Fan Expert 2 technology, meaning you're going to have 3-pin and 4-pin control with our automated calibration technology to be able to tune that per each header. We also still maintain 3 optional temp sensors. I don't know if you can get maybe in tight on this little guy right here, but there's an optional temp sensor that's right next to this fan header, and there's a total of 3 of them that are sprinkled throughout the board. And this little temp sensor allows you to go ahead and take an actual lead point to it and then map it to anywhere you want. So you could put it by the CPU, you could put it by your graphics card, you could put it by your hard drive, and you'll have full real-time temperature reading out available to you in the UEFI or inside the software. So this helps to kind of overall give you not only that huge amount of fan control flexibility and functionality, but also helps you have advanced monitoring available to you as well.
So would you be able to also, like if you added on your own little temperature sensor on there, would you be able to tie that into the fan control so that based on wherever you set that, if the temperature
Those
goes
are
up?
not linked, so you don't have the ability to go ahead and map that temperature to be able to respond to the fan curve. That data is fed in from the Pci data that's provided by the DTS sensor and things along those lines. But similarly, if you kind of wanted that functionality, that is available like on the Sabertooth series board.
Okay.
So rounding out from there, of course, we still keep all the classic things you would expect, you know, so like voltage read points, debug LED, the power and reset button. Of course, we got the direct key button, which you're a fan of as well. And we have the DRCT header. A lot of people forget about the DRCT header, but the DRCT header is a little pin header that's above that front block section. And the great thing about that header is you can take your front chassis lead from the reset button to that header, plug that in there, and then you can turn your reset button into the direct key button.
So if you never use your reset button, and I use it rarely if ever, you simply route that over, and then you can push your reset button anytime you want to jump into your UEFI.
That's correct.
Very, very handy.
So I think we can take maybe a last look here as far as the back I/O.
Sure. All right, so rear panel I/O here. Again, you're not seeing all of it here because there is a riser card that is missing over there when it comes to the 802.11ac.
Correct, so that would be for 802.11ac and Bluetooth, along with the M.2 support for the ultra small form factor storage. We've got to the USB BIOS flashback button, so that's the quick flash for your UEFI to update or recover it. No CPU, no memory, no graphics card. You got a clear CMOS button. You've got 4 USB 2 ports that are on here. You've then got 4 USB 3 ports. These support the USB 3 boost technology technology as well as USB Charger Plus.
Okay.
So you can speed up your flash drive performance or quick charge your mobile devices. You got a DisplayPort and an HDMI, of course, with the Haswell-based iGPUs. You can support 4K output as well. You've got the Toslink optical output that will work in conjunction with the Supreme Effects audio for DTS Connect and DTS Ultra 2 PC, so you can go ahead and take stereo content and enable multi-channel. We've got 2 more USB 3 ports here. Then you go to an Intel integrated gigabit Ethernet with the latest i-Series network controller. Nice. And that does support our Game First packet priority software, so you can reduce your ping, your latency, and optimize for downloading, web browsing, streaming, or voice over IP. Okay. And then you've got all your analog HD audio connections rounding out there. So overall, you can see a very, very rich back I/O panel in terms of all the connectivity that's offered. Definitely. When you tie that into the fact that, of course, you've got a board that overclocks outstanding, has a super rich UEFI, which if you guys have not checked it out, make sure and check out the Z87 video that we did that covered all the super advanced UEFI options that our Z87 boards and our ROG boards have to offer. You're going to even get more value with that. And then you add in, of course, the CrossChill with the Supreme Effects-based audio design, and I think you really hopefully seeing that I think we've almost left no corner unturned in terms of trying to bring you the best that we could possibly put into a gaming class motherboard. Definitely a jam-packed motherboard. So I know there's a lot of folks again out there who've maybe seen this in some of our Computex videos, some of the early quick looks that we saw at it. So now available, so check it out. We'll put a link down in the description if you guys want to head over to newegg.com and check out the item page for this. And they can see a little bit more too of it in our live build. Oh yes. We're going to be doing a live build with Maximus 6 Impact, and then we'll be doing a live build with the Maximus 6 Formula. Nice. Paul will be taking, I believe, on the Impact, and I'll be taking on the Formula. JJ gets to do the water cooling. That's okay. But yeah, that's all for this video though, guys. Once again, Maximus 6 Formula designed for Intel's 4th generation core processors on the 1150 socket. Again, not backwards compatible with Ivy Bridge or Sandy Bridge, so bear that in mind. Z87 chipset. JJ, thanks again so much for stopping by today. Thank you for having me. And thanks to you guys for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed this, if you like when JJ stops by and gives all the gritty details on their motherboards. We'll see you all next time on Newegg TV.